if you have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake, and I have a straw, there it is, that's a straw, you see. You watching? And my straw reaches across the room and starts to drink your milkshake. I drink your milkshake.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. I'm Nick Moffat. I'm here with Derek Deal.
Hello.
And Brandon Bowlby.
Hey, guys.
So this is kind of the start of our new season where we'll be doing an episode every month, putting out short reviews on some movies, but then doing 3 full-length reviews on some of the bigger movies that we're more interested in. This one will be going over the last 3 months because our movie season is just starting. Even though it's March, we're doing January, February, and March. I think we talked about that in our last episode, our top 10 episode. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just getting started on our new podcast, the Monthly Movie Dispatch. How's the year going so far for you guys? It's 2018. How's your movie lives going? Brandon, I know you're into something right now.
Yeah, I've started a side project, not just watching new movies, but I'm going through Tarkovsky's filmography. Right now, I am 3 short films and 3 features deep into his 7 feature filmography. It's really fascinating. He's a Russian director through the 50s to the 70s, and starting to get into his prime films coming up with Stalker and Mirror. So I'm really excited for the last few to come. Also, it's been a good season so far. I've seen about 7 movies in 2018.
Nice. Derek, what about you? What have you been up to?
Not much. I got Movie Pass starting this year, so it's been a little more of a reason for me to actually get out and go see what's playing. One thing I didn't quite, I didn't predict it having this effect on me, which was making me feel like I need to go to the movies because I gotta make sure I get my money's worth. And so both me and Christina have been going. We've seen 6 movies already this year, and it's going good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in the middle of my spring cleaning movie project where I take every movie off my shelf that I haven't seen and do short reviews of each one of them. I have them on YouTube. You can look me up on Nicholas Moffat. I've got a channel up there. I also link it on my Twitter page. But that's a fun way for me to see a lot of the movies from the past. I got a lot of VHS tapes that I have just not seen. And it's not just VHS. I got DVDs as well. But yeah, it's like a lot of bad movies. Like Superman 4 was one that I watched recently. And man, that was like by far the worst comic book movie I've ever seen. Like,
I've heard it's rough.
Like, it is ridiculous. I don't really want to get into it here because I've got a whole YouTube episode about it. But man, that movie is just like bonkers bad, and not even in a fun way. Like, people complain about Batman and Robin, and at least that movie makes sense. This has a bad guy whose superpowers are radioactive fingernails.
What?
So,
and what's your favorite so far?
Oh, I don't know. I watched The Big Heat earlier this week. I haven't actually put an episode out for that one yet, but that was a film noir that I was really into.
Oh, I thought you said The Big Sleep. Never mind.
That's also a film noir that is actually also that's coming up. I have that on I have that on DVD. I haven't seen it yet, but so both those are great. But Run Lola Run is another one I watched and just fell in love with. That movie's
nice.
Really, really good. Anyway, so just to kick off this episode, like I said, we're going to be doing short reviews on 5 or 6 or 7 movies, and then we're going to be doing 3 long format reviews on the bigger ones that have come out. I'll just tell you, those Black Panther, Game Night, and Annihilation are the big 3. And so just to kick us off on the short reviews, we're going to go with Derek at the Cloverfield Paradox.
Oh, God. Well, so this movie was released directly onto Netflix a half hour after the Super Bowl. I think they announced it during the Super Bowl that it was coming out. It's basically is kind of a shoehorned in third film in the Cloverfield franchise, but God, it was one of the worst movies I've seen in years. I feel like I really, I really did not enjoy almost any amount of the movie. It had some pretty interesting sci-fi concepts, but overall, it was one of the least enjoyable movies I've seen the last year or so.
If it wasn't for it being a Cloverfield film, this would be have been such a easy skippable movie for me, but it roped me in because the first two I'm a big fan of. And this really is like one of those terrible movies I would never have seen and would usually just avoid and not worry too much about. So it really sucked that I had to sit there for 2 hours and go through this Paradox film.
Yeah, I mean, the Cloverfield thing is really great because they have the opportunity to do individual sci-fi movies and keep them separate, but also in the same kind of realm of almost pulpiness. Um, this one, this one's big problem, in my opinion, was that it took a bunch of concepts and tried to put them all together, and just none of them really fit. And it also had like implications of the greater Cloverfield universe that were problematic and just like kind of upsetting. But yeah, not a good movie. So that was Cloverfield Paradox. That's available now on Netflix. So Brandon, what's next movie?
So I saw Red Sparrow and actually liked it quite a bit. This is a Russian spy thriller. It's directed by Francis Lawrence, who he did Constantine and I Am Legend, which were both pretty interesting, entertaining films. And then more recently, he did the last three Hunger Games movies, which he did a decent job on. I actually like the second Hunger Games a lot. So going into this movie, I was curious what he would do with, original concept and not doing a franchise. It's starring Jennifer Lawrence and Joel Edgerton, and I had a really good time with this movie. It's pretty long and very serious, but to me, it was a well-made, in-depth look at the spy genre. And there was moments of like great brutality that were really intense, and I kind of got into the characters and the relationship between the two in the cast.
Cool. I saw this movie as well. Brandon's a lot higher on it than I was. I really didn't like this movie that much. I just thought it was I just thought it missed the mark on in a lot of ways and was pretty boring and way too long. But I don't really want to get too far into it. But yeah, that's Red Sparrow. That's still in theaters right now. The next film we're going to talk about is When We First Met. It's a time-traveling comedy. It's a Netflix original film. It stars Adam Devine and Alexandra Daddario. I turned this on because I'm pretty interested in time travel movies. And this movie I really didn't like. It's basically the concept is this guy met a girl and he's been in love with her for 3 years. And he just regrets that he was friend zoned the first day that they hung out. And so he finds a time travel machine and goes back in time to try to recreate the first day that they hung out so that he wouldn't be friend zoned. And it's a pretty gross concept, if you ask me. Like, and they don't really get away from it being kind of gross. I mean, the moral of it isn't, kind of ends on like a better tone than like, hey, you can manipulate someone into loving you. It kind of moves away from that, but it doesn't really shake the tone of that. Yeah, When We First Met is on Netflix. Not a fan.
Sounds like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, except Groundhog's Day is pretty good.
I'd never heard of that, but I guess I won't be watching it based off your recommendation.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a tough one for the worst movie of the year for me, I think.
Wow.
So, Derek, I think you're next.
All right, the next movie is Thoroughbreds, directed by Corey Finley, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, and this was Anton Yelchin's last film. Yeah, I thought it was all right. It's kind of a thriller. I know, Nick, you thought it was more of like a comedy. I don't know, it's one of those movies that like it has such a gray tone, and the characters are so emotionless for the most part. So it's hard for me. I just didn't really get that into it. It was hard for me to really enjoy any specific piece of it, but I thought it was well made, well shot. It looked great, and the performances were fine. It was just the story just didn't. I don't know. It didn't really click for me.
Yeah, I saw this movie too. I'm with you. Like I thought it was very well made, and the performances were really great, and they were doing something interesting and having characters who really didn't feel anything. And this movie gets a lot of comparisons to Heathers.
Yeah.
I thought Heathers is clearly more fun and clearly more of a satire, but and I still think this one is a satire on some level and a comedy on some level too. But for me, the big thing was that the ending didn't come together for me. Like the movie set up a bunch of pieces and then they didn't connect. I would have maybe appreciated it being a little longer, so maybe things would have connected better. But
Right.
it just kind of left me flat.
I am curious, how did Anton Yelchin do? Like, he made a pretty big impact, even being a minor character in Star Trek, and of course, Green Room, he was amazing. Yeah, it's sad it's his last film ever, but yeah, how was his performance?
He was good.
Yeah, no, he was definitely really good in it. It's a real big bummer that he passed away at such a young age, because I think he could have had a great life and a great career. So so that was Thoroughbreds. That should still be in the theater now. Brandon, I think you're next.
So, another film I saw this year was The Death of Stalin. It's a satirical, dark comedy. It's by the director also created the show Veep on HBO. So it does play off a lot of that same humor. This film is like totally strange for a comedy. Like it is dealing with the darkest subject matter. Like you're literally watching genocide happen in some scenes and shots and then cracking up at the absurdity of these characters the next moment. And I've never seen a movie smash those two extremes together more than The Death of Stalin. It's also just like really well paced. The humor is smart, and I really recommend this. It's pretty brilliant for what they're trying to go for.
That's awesome. That's a movie that I definitely want to see. It's on my list.
Yeah, that cast is crazy.
Yeah, it's like no like massive names, but like everybody that pops up in it you like have seen and know of. It's kind of like a lot of big side character actors getting like moments to shine.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was The Death of Stalin. That's still in theaters right now. I wanted to bring up A Futile and Stupid Gesture. It's a biopic comedy directed by David Wayne, who also did Wet Hot American Summer and Role Models and a few other comedy projects. It stars Will Forte, Domhnall Gleeson, and this movie's basically a biopic about National Lampoons. Basically, it goes over how it started as a magazine and how they transitioned to film, and basically the ups and downs of maintaining and sustaining like a comedy troupe enterprise. It's pretty great. There's some really fun casting choices, like John Daly as Bill Murray, Joel McHale as Chevy Chase, Seth Green as Christopher Guest, and they play with like you knowing that those aren't the real people. Like these people are still alive. They play with that concept. It's a pretty fun movie. My problem with it is that they play it a little straight for such a comedy biopic. It's just like it has its funny moments, but its overall tone is fairly regular biopic kind of stuff. It's worthwhile to watch because it's free on Netflix. I'd recommend it if you're looking for like if you're interested in the subject matter, because it's definitely interesting. It's just not like a home run.
This is one of those things where like the fact that it's on Netflix, being distributed through there is probably the reason why I will watch it. If it was kind of anywhere else in theaters or had to pay for rental, I don't know if I would, but yeah, this will be a good watch. I'm interested about it.
Same.
Yeah, like you don't have to pay for this. It's unless you don't have Netflix, but yeah, you can just go on Netflix tonight and just watch it. It's only like an hour and a half long. It's pretty easy to watch. There's definitely like enough worthwhile people in it to make it a fun watch. So that was A Futile and Stupid Gesture. It's available on Netflix right now. Brandon, I think you're next.
So another movie I watched is Love, Simon. I actually saw this last night. This is a high school coming of age film. I was actually not looking forward to this movie at all. I'd been seeing trailers for it for months now in theaters, and the trailers looked bad, looked so forced and like really cheesy coming out high school movie. But when the reviews started going, Derek, you told me to go see it as well. Like, this movie is great, and surprisingly, it's super genuine. They don't phone it in the end when everything is kind of like climaxing. And it's fun and it's funny. It's well paced. I really got into the style of the movie and the trick they kind of do with who his boyfriend is. It's hard to explain without spoilers, but there is some creativity they do in the storyline and how things are revealed that I haven't really seen before. And it's a really great film.
Yeah, and I saw this too, and to me, I felt like the film's greatest strength was just how genuine it was. Like it didn't really go out of its way to be super artistic or anything like that, but just everything's like felt really natural. And yeah, like you said, like when it came to the climax, I felt like they nailed it. It's something that I think they could have easily dropped the ball on and had like kind of a cheesy moment, but yeah, they pulled it off.
Well, that's really cool. I saw the trailer for that and thought it looked terrible. So and then yeah, like opening weekend, I saw that it was getting great reviews. So it's really cool hearing that you guys liked it so much. I don't know if I'll see it in the theater, but I definitely now I will see it though. So
Yeah, I'd say a must-see movie for the year, but not necessarily a theater movie.
that was Love, Simon. It's still in theaters right now. So now we're going to move on to our featured reviews. The first being Black Panther. So this film was directed by Ryan Coogler. It's the newest installment in the MCU. Derek, what are your first impressions?
First impression, if you were to tell me that this film was going to be one of the biggest movies ever made, I would have said you're insane. But here we are a couple weeks later, and it is one of the biggest films ever made. It's the highest grossing comic book movie of all time domestically, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. But as far as the movie goes, I love this movie. I really had no expectations going into it. It's my first Ryan Coogler movie. You know, I know that people love him, and everything he does is great. But any shortcomings that Marvel tends to have in their films, this movie somehow avoided all of them. The villain, it's the best villain, hands down. I can easily say it's the best villain in the MCU so far. And just the world of Wakanda and how they showed it as like this complete character in the film is really fascinating. The whole movie, I love it. I have nothing bad to say about this film.
Awesome. Brandon, what about you?
I mean, I have a few bad things to say about the movie. I did not like it as much as you guys did. I was pretty happy with it and I had a good time, like especially the villain and even the conflict with the hero was one of the most interesting Marvel has done so far. And so what was behind the characters was really well done and pretty impressive. And I hope they take this going forward and give their leads and villains more depth in the future. But I mean, there was a couple things that like really got to me. I was pretty sad about the like CGI in this movie. It looked really cheap. And maybe that was because like Disney wasn't expecting this to be a massive success since it was like character people didn't really know. You know, this isn't an established series yet. And it looked cheap on so many parts. Which was really unfortunate because this movie had like more green screen than most of the regular Marvel films. On top of that, I also was kind of let down by the action in the movie, especially from with Creed and how like amazing he did in the ring with those boxing scenes. And I kind of like expected a little bit more. And they got that going in the fight scene in South Korea. But it really the action didn't play out in the climax, and it was kind of disappointing. I don't want to be a big bummer on this movie. I was hoping I'd go last, but yeah, those were my, it's like it's supposed to be a action film and it failed on that front. It's supposed to be a big spectacle and it failed on the CGI for me. But I do really respect it for its writing and the characters for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely liked it more than you, Brandon. Probably not as much as Derek. But yeah, I mean, I have it up there in the upper echelon of Marvel movies. I didn't have a problem with the action. I thought the action was really good. There was that big chase sequence in Korea, like in the cars, and I thought that was like really great. I mean, it's over the top, it's ridiculous. Like cars are like literally like flipping midair, but I was like really into that chase scene. I really liked the one-on-one battles that they had, like at the waterfall. I thought those were really well done. And yeah, I mean, I guess the big climax where there was a lot of action going on, it was one of those, to me, like kind of a typical, action movie type, comic book, big blockbuster sort of action scene where there's a lot of action going on all at once. And I thought they did a great job balancing it. Like there was enough character work there that had me interested in all the action that was happening. I don't know, there was enough going on that kept me interested and invested. And really the big part for me was that the big ending did come down to two guys just punching each other the hardest, but there was really emotional stakes to it. And the ending, there was a difference that was made for the characters. Like T'Challa is going to be a different person than he was at the beginning of the movie because of the bad guy that he faced. That was compelling stuff for me. I'm with you, Derek. Michael B. Jordan definitely delivered the best bad guy of the MCU. I mean, Loki's up there for sure, but Loki has kind of become an anti-hero. He's kind of a fun guy to root for. But
how about Homecoming? That would be another one, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those are the three. And that's actually like one of the,
Willem Dafoe.
people talk about the problems of MCU.
Why did you say Willem Dafoe?
Well, he was the first Spider-Man.
Oh no. Wait.
You're thinking of Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Right.
Yeah, wrong decade.
Wrong Spider-Man.
Oh,
but yeah, like so I mean, Derek, I'm kind of curious, like where does Black Panther stack for you against other MCU movies?
Well, I put it as my number 2 in the MCU. Civil War being my favorite, and this was easily my second favorite.
Easily. You like there's a gap after this one?
No, I mean Winter Soldier's right there too, but then there's a gap, and then yeah.
Nice.
I had it at number 5, but like for me, that's really good. Like yeah. I've got Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Avengers, and Winter Soldier in front of it. Yeah. But like, Black Panther, like I have that in front of the original Iron Man and all the other ones. I don't know, like,
I don't have a full list for it, but I will say, I mean, call me crazy, but I think it was not as good as any of the 3 that came out in 2017. Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Doctor Strange. Not crazy far below it, but below those 3.
Yeah, so you thought Doctor Strange was better as well?
I think so, and it's mostly because the climax was so good.
I think you meant Thor Ragnarok, right?
Well, I think he meant Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange came out a year before. Yeah, like I mean, Brand, like, have you seen the other Ryan Coogler films? Like.
Oh yeah, Fruitvale Station. He is such a good director, and he's promised himself over and over again. I hope he doesn't just jump straight into Black Panther 2. It'd be awesome to see, like, God, if he like bounce back and forth between like Creed and Black Panther and making super like great small indies. Like, it's just really exciting for him.
Yeah. I kind of feel like, with Marvel being such a huge machine in and of itself, and it being in the Disney machine, sometimes directors come and go, and we kind of have to see how they fit into the machine. I kind of feel like Ryan Coogler took some of his intensity and brought it to Black Panther, and I kind of feel like that's one of the things that made it so successful. Fruitvale Station was very much like a social justice movie, and Black Panther was kind of representative of the black culture, and I think that's partly what made it so successful.
Yeah, I think it takes its chances, and it doesn't shy away from being bold in statements and just like visually, and I think that's part of people are really responding well to it as opposed to backing away from that kind of thing.
You said that he brought his like intensity to the directing. There was that one scene that always stands out in my head when I think about Black Panther. I don't think people talk about it enough. It's when the second tier villain is trying to like take off in the helicopter like parking lot.
Oh yeah.
And he kind of turns on everybody. It's really brutal for like 30 seconds there, and I like kind of gasped that was in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But I like loved that moment.
I actually feel like this was one of the more like violent Marvel movies, like just for that kind of thing that you're talking about. It didn't have like as much combat and overall violence as Winter Soldier or Civil War, but the brutality and like how personal that violence is in this movie is a lot more shocking, and especially to see in a Marvel movie. Yeah.
Does somebody want to mention the rhinos, or are we going to skip over that?
What about the rhinos?
I didn't have any problem with the rhinos.
No?
They're fine.
Nick, what's your opinion on the rhinos?
I don't have an opinion on the rhinos. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. All right.
Brandon has a very strong opinion about the rhinos.
Are they like, is CG really bad or something? I really don't know what you're talking about.
It was I just remember like the setup of the rhinos when they introduced like the village and then like feeding them.
Like the rhinos were like the Chekhov's gun of Black Panther.
Yeah, they like I was like, why did they show rhinos? Those have to come into play. And then they like Deus Ex Machina like literally came in right at the perfect moment, and they're so ridiculous and CGI and cheap. But I chuckled when that was happening.
Word. So that was Black Panther. That is still in the theater. You can catch that at your local Cineplex. So the next movie we wanted to talk about was Game Night. Game Night stars Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. The plot from IMDb is a group of friends who meet regularly for game nights find themselves entangled in a real-life mystery. So I thought this movie was so much better than it ever should have been. Like, I was kind of late to the party on this one. I didn't see it for a few weeks after it came out. Like, I just saw it this last weekend, and I saw that it was getting great buzz, and it was like, what's the fuss about this movie? It just looks like a typical comedy where something over the top, big concept is happening. And after seeing it, it's like, it's basically like David Fincher's The Game, except freaking hilarious. The cast is on fire. Like, there's so many good jokes. That the comedy is just like on point and smart, and there's so many like reoccurring jokes that happen that just make me laugh so hard. It's just like I saw it on Friday night, and it was like the perfect movie to see after a long week of work. And just, I don't know, I just totally loved this movie. It was just a great time at the theater. Derek, do you have any initial thoughts about Game Night?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I didn't really have many expectations. I just knew I liked the actors in it, but I thought it was going to be like there's this weird trend of movies coming out that are just like names of things, and they just make a movie out of it. Like they had like Office Christmas Party was another Jason Bateman comedy,
Right.
and I never saw it, but it didn't get very good reviews, and so I kind of expected this was kind of the same thing. Like maybe it made some good money, and so like, oh, what other fun sayings can we turn into movies? Like, oh, game night, yeah. But it wasn't that at all. Like you said, it was much more like Fincher-esque, but straight comedy, played for laughs. And what I really appreciated about it, besides the fact that I think all the jokes landed really well, all the cast was really great, there's something to be said about a comedy that is willing to take visual risks with its style and its camera work. And
That's so true.
Oh yeah.
and if they can pull it off. And I think back to like The Hangover. I think that was part of why that movie had like landed with such a bang and had such a big draw. At least the first one was that they filmed it like a thriller.
Right.
They didn't film it like a comedy at all. And I feel like they kind of did the same thing with this movie, and they took some interesting risks. Not everything looked amazing, but it was interesting enough for me to be like really on their side throughout the whole time, the whole film, and just really rooting for this strange comedy to like work, and it totally did.
Yeah, so I saw it with Shannon and my roommate Greg. The first thing Greg said to me after the movie was the camera work in that movie was amazing. Like he pointed out that they did this shot where there's a scene towards the end where a car is following an airplane, and it was just a really interesting shot. Like that whole sequence was shot in a really interesting, unique way that most comedies aren't ever shot in such. Like Greg was like, I'd never seen a chase sequence like that before, and it's like crazy that someone would say that after a kind of a silly comedy.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the like really cool like establishing shots they would do with like really shallow focus on the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Those looked really awesome.
Right.
I even remember like when they jumped in the car right when one of the chases was kind of starting, when they were breaking out of the first place. They did the typical like attach the camera to the door as it's closing. Mm-hmm. But then once they did that, they put an extra like movement in it and like staging of the actors within that door closing, and I was like, oh, they know what they're doing. Like right when I saw that, it like clicked with me.
And the whole like the Fabergé egg scene, like where they tried to do the whole like one shot.
Oh,
throughout
forgot
the
about
house.
that. Oh my god, that was great.
Yeah.
That was so well done.
So Brandon, what did you think about this movie?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And with you guys, I was kind of cautious with an R-rated comedy. I don't know. I guess I've been let down, and I'm usually not too into them. But when I was seeing the trailers, I was kind of getting curious about it, and I had the best time watching this. Like the story is so smart, and there's so many like good roles in this movie. Have we mentioned Jesse Plemons?
Jesse Plemons is so good.
Like.
Jesse Plemons is by far my favorite part of this movie. He was
he steals the show.
I've been quoting him all week. Like I just keep thinking about his face. Just him standing there on his lawn, petting his dog, asking slowly about when the next game night is, and them just trying to get out of it. And then as the movie goes on, you just see that he's just such a sad, lonely, noble character.
I love the way from like the first time you see him, how they continue writing him like in and out of the story, and he never goes away, and like his role is so important. Like it's really clever.
Yeah, he's great. I think that's like the one thing I hear from everyone that's seen this movie is that he's like everyone's favorite. It'd probably be one of those characters for the whole year, you know, that people are just like loving over.
Right.
I'm just sitting over here laughing, thinking about that scene with how he's like the potato chips, where he's like, I see you have 3 bags of Fritos Scoops. Why do you have 3 bags? They're like just trying to get out of it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just.
I think if this movie, like, for high schoolers, I can imagine them getting like obsessed with this movie. Like around that time when like when you rewatch things, like this could be, like the Napoleon Dynamite, or I could see it really like catching on for the next several years in that kind of regard.
Yeah, at the same time though, it's a very adult movie though. Like it's for adults that are like they're doing game night. Like it's for people our age who like aren't going to the bars anymore. They're doing game night. So it's I don't know. I just appreciate seeing a movie like that, like how funny and original it is for like this kind of age group of like, yeah, we don't really get crazy anymore, but sometimes game night can get crazy.
Yeah.
So I also really liked the way they played with the concept in the last third of the film. Like the whole, am I expecting a twist to come, which is kind of the basis of the movie, plays out in like an awesome way. And it goes back and forth and they trick you in appropriate ways. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's like, it's so well done at the end. And I love how they turn it into like the butt of the joke in the movie.
I like how we're on the same page as the characters the whole time. We're expecting a twist because that's the world that they live in, and they're expecting a twist, and we're right on the same page as them. And so as the twists are coming, we're kind of second guessing them and going along with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think, well, there's my one little like nitpick about the movie is I wish we were second guessing the concept for a little bit longer. And it's fine that they didn't keep it until the very end, but I wish it was like halfway through the film. Like I would have been going back and forth on, is it a game? Is it real?
Sure.
I think they gave that up a few scenes too early.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, and just based off the concept that it's a comedy and stuff, like you kind of come to that conclusion, I think, naturally. But they still found a way to keep a mystery, going all the way to the end.
I want to give a quick shout out to Rachel McAdams because she's awesome. Okay, so let's move on to Annihilation. That's our final film for this month. The plot summary is a biologist signs up for a dangerous secret expedition into a mysterious zone where the laws of nature don't apply. Brandon, do you want to give us the first rundown on Annihilation?
This film is directed by Alex Garland, who recently did the awesome film Ex Machina, which I was a huge fan of. So I was really looking forward to this movie, except for the trailers were giving me kind of cringy vibes. I think they marketed this super strangely, but what you got out of this is like a really smart sci-fi film that we hardly see anymore, besides Arrival, which was also amazing. But I wish this was more common because I loved this movie so much. This is going to be like one of my favorite movies of the year. Alex Garland brings like such a good vision and style to this movie. When I think about the movie as a whole, with his coloring and his set design, like there's nothing else like it. And he really like wrapped this movie in its own frame and really separated itself. And I respect that a lot out of this movie. The sci-fi concept that's like slowly revealed throughout the movie is really great and interesting and leads to like one of the best climaxes and best designed climaxes I've seen. It was like jaw-dropping at parts, and I think it'll go down by the end of the year as having one of the most terrifying things in cinema in 2018, which was the bear scene. Of course, if you've seen it, the crazy bear
scene. There's a name for that bear already. I can't think what it's called.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, this movie's awesome.
Looking at the movie as a whole, looking back at it, it feels like one of those crazy like sci-fi classics that have the most unique perspective and just explores such a crazy concept. It's one of those movies that like nothing else that I know of explores an idea like this, and especially not in the approach. And like you're saying, like that climax is so incredible and so easy to fuck up, I feel like. Like that, it's so easy to get lost in what's happening there, and somehow it doesn't spell anything out for you, but at the same time, you're not completely left in the dark on what's happening. Yeah, I agree. I don't see any reason why this movie won't hold up throughout the year as one of the best movies of the year. I think he is a extraordinary director that has one of the most unique voices out there right now. And he's doing his own thing, which is cool. It's really exciting. Can't wait to see what he does next. I will say, like, for people who haven't heard of the movie or don't know why with its amazing buzz, why it's not performing that well, is it also has a really weird political situation with Paramount and Netflix and stuff. A quick rundown was basically, from what I understand, Paramount wanted to change the ending of the film. Alex Garland said no. You know, Paramount thought it was too confusing and would leave audiences with a bad taste in their mouth. Part of me thinks that part of that is because of Mother, too. Like, I think they felt maybe burned a little bit on taking a chance on Mother, and so they didn't want him to have such a crazy ending. He, stood his ground, and his producers backed him, and so Paramount pulled their marketing budget for it and sold the rest of the rights to Netflix. So,
Yeah, so everywhere besides the United States and Canada, I believe, it's on
right.
Netflix streaming and not in theaters. So we're
Yeah.
pretty lucky to be able to go to the big screen and see it here in the States.
And everyone I've recommended this movie to told you have to see it in theaters because and I say that about a lot of movies, but probably this one more than any. I don't think you're going to have even similar experience watching it at home unless you have really loud speakers, and I don't know, like, it's so important for you to be in a room with strangers and this movie blasting in your face at times, like, in order to get the full effect of it.
That score and sound,
Yeah.
especially at the end, you need that score blasting in your eardrums for it to like hit you that hard.
Yeah. Agreed.
Annihilation's amazing. Have you guys seen his other movies? Like, how do you think it compares to, like, Ex Machina and Dread? And I don't know if you heard that story about Dread that came out recently, but, like, officially he did Ex Machina and Annihilation. But apparently the people who worked on Dread, they came out a few weeks ago and said, hey, the director of Dread wasn't really there, like, ever. Alex Garland pretty much directed Dread. And he's credited for writing it and helping produce it. But yeah, apparently he unofficially did Dread. And then he wrote 28 Days Later and Sunshine and The Beach, a few other Danny Boyle movies. Like, I think this guy's on like a pretty crazy career trajectory at this point. He started writing novels and then he started writing movies for Danny Boyle. And I mean, shit, he's got two of the best sci-fi movies of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I actually didn't know that about his history. No, I didn't even know he wrote for Danny Boyle. No wonder he's so good at writing these scripts that he's directing.
Yeah, they were a duo for a long time. He's one of the few writers that I've just incidentally seen all of his movies. I anywhere from like to like adore all of his films. But fun fact, he also wrote the Halo script that was sold for to Peter Jackson for Neil Blomkamp to direct that ended up not happening.
Oh God, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, that was when they switched to make District 9 instead. Which was
I'll forgive him. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, he's great.
So I've seen the Annihilation twice now. The first time I definitely liked it, but I wasn't like as sure about it. I kind of had mixed feelings about it, and then I saw it again and I liked it a lot more the second time. Like after a second viewing, I was able to see things come together a lot easier, and I saw a lot of the symbolism that they're trying to go for, and obviously symbolism is subjective. Like I feel like the movie had a lot of things to say about depression and changing, like oneself while still like mixing itself up with sci-fi concepts and, you know, pseudoscience. And but yeah, just the second viewing, I was able to really see how expansive the film was and how beautiful and tragic it was. Like, and that was part of my thing, was I couldn't tell at the end of it if it was supposed to be like sad or uplifting. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I've wrapped my head around the ending pretty well. I think I know what happens. Not that I can talk about it here, but I'm guessing, Nick, you're kind of talking about the like side story that was going on with the cheating throughout the movie
Well,
and the flashbacks. Like that
well-
was really interesting to me. But I kind of, when I was watching that, I was like, this looks really great and seems very intimate, but like I can't even handle this side story right now. I'm sure I'll diagnose this on my rewatch, but
Totally.
like,
But, like,
and
I think
yeah,
all
so
of
that, I
that
think he
is-
plants that in there to make the movie last and have like those kind of legs for fans that want to go back and dive deeper.
Well, and I think all of that is very key to the symbolism of the movie, though, because each of the characters that goes into the Shimmer, they're pretty much going on a suicide mission, and they know it, and they each have a big chip on their shoulder, a big reason for going in, a maybe reason for not coming back out, and I think that's like a big part of the movie. I think that's mixed up big time in what the movie is really about. And since we don't really do spoilers on the show, we can't really go into much more detail on it, but I definitely think it's a movie that is worth rewatching and dissecting and talking about over time. And yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. It's something that people should see in the theaters, but I mean, it's also kind of exciting that like it's going to come to Netflix pretty soon. So everyone can rewatch it very soon.
Yeah, the layers are there to diagnose and talk about after you've seen the whole film, and that's something else Garland does really well.
Quick question. As far as directing goes, Ex Machina followed by Annihilation. Well, what do you like more? What do you think? Like I feel like Annihilation is far more complex than Ex Machina, and yeah. But I think to me it feels like he pulls it off. I felt like he pulled it off with just as much ease as Ex Machina.
I'd say nearly. I think it has higher peaks and a little bit lower valleys, but like that's just kind of what you get with something that's more ambitious.
Right.
So my friend Cal, he likes to, like, he was a big fan of both Ex Machina and Annihilation. He likes to do the SAT question of like Ex Machina is to Annihilation as Primer is to Upstream Color. Are you guys familiar with those movies?
Yeah.
I know Upstream Color.
I haven't seen Upstream Color. I've seen Primer, but like Primer and Ex Machina are both straightforward, like grounded in reality. Rules exist. Like this is what is happening. Sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
While Upstream Color and Annihilation are both abstract, full of symbolism, like, you know, take what you get out of it, like, you know, you put in what you get out, figure it out, beautifully stylistic type of movies.
That's a really good comparison. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a really fun comparison because I definitely like both Upstream Color and Primer a lot too.
So, shout out to Cal for that comparison.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is Annihilation. That's probably leaving the theaters very soon, so you'll probably have to check it out on Netflix or on Blu-ray or DVD when it comes out. So that pretty much wraps up for our reviews of the show. Real quick, we're going to go through some upcoming movies that we're excited about that we're maybe going to talk about for our next episode. So, Brandon, what's the first one we're excited about?
So the first movie is Isle of Dogs. It comes out March 23rd. This is the new Wes Anderson film. Everything he touches is gold, and so I expect this movie to be nonetheless. It's stop animation, just like Fantastic Mr. Fox was several films ago in his filmography, and I am super excited about it.
Cool. That should be in theaters very shortly. I'm really excited about Ready Player One. It's the new Steven Spielberg film. I know this movie's gained mixed reactions already. I think a lot of that has to do with the nostalgia factor. This movie plays deeply into sci-fi and the past. Making video games out of the things that you love. And for me, I'm all about Steven Spielberg. He's made over 30 films. Over half of them are classics. So, he's one of the best directors of our time. And it's going to be one of his last really innovative films. So it's something to look forward to.
I'm really looking forward to A Quiet Place. It comes out April 6th. It's directed by John Krasinski. This is a big concept horror movie that the studios are really pushing like big time. Like this feels like a big blockbuster movie that's coming out. And it's this little horror movie about a family that has to survive by being completely silent. If you make any noise, you're hunted by some sort of monster. They've really, outside of that amount of plot, they've really kept everything about this movie pretty under wraps. And yeah, it just looks really cool, and they're hyping it up a lot. So this is like my most anticipated movie of the year right now, even over Avengers, at least until I see it. So yeah.
Another movie I'm really looking forward to is this film called Zama. It is an Argentinian film. It takes place in like the 1800s, period piece, Spanish language film. I don't know much about it except for it was ranked as number 4 on Sight and Sound's list in 2017. But it's getting its official release here in the States April 13th. So I'm pretty stoked for that. It's going to be great.
Another movie we're excited about is You Were Never Really Here, starring Joaquin Phoenix. It's directed by Lynn Ramsey. Her last film, well, actually, might not have been her last film, but she's really known for There's Something About Kevin. What number was it? You said this was on Sight and Sound's list last year?
Yeah, number 12.
Number 12. Yeah, we're just really excited about it. It looks really great. It's good to have Joaquin Phoenix back making bunch of good movies again, and it looks like it's a similar plot to like Taxi Driver, maybe an updated version. It's a man saves a little girl from prostitution and kind of goes on some sort of a killing spree. Yeah, I'm just really excited to check it out. Looks like it's shot really cool, and should be an awesome movie.
Great. Obviously, I'm really excited about Avengers Infinity War. That comes out April 27th. Basically, it's the thing that the whole MCU has been building up for. Thanos is coming, and they gotta fight him off. Let's hope that Thanos is as good of a villain as Black Panther.
And the last film we're looking forward to this year is another movie left over from 2017 that's finally getting its released in the States. April 27th. It's called Let the Sunshine In. This is a French film, and it was on a bunch of end of the year lists last year, number 19 on Sight and Sound, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Excellent. So that's the end of our March episode. Like I said, this will be a monthly podcast. This is the monthly movie dispatch. So we're going to be doing this every month, talking about our favorite movies and what you should watch. Hey, Brandon, where can we find you else online?
You can find me on Instagram, Brandon_Bulby, and you can find me on Letterboxd at Beb.
Derek, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd at Chicken Tack. I'm also temporarily, for now, back on Twitter. You can find me at Chicken Tack, and I'm still streaming quite a bit on Mixer at Chicken Tack.
Yeah, I'm Nick Moffat, and you can find me at Mothman23 on Twitter, and I'm very active on Letterboxd, trying to do more written reviews on there. Nick Moffat, you can find me, and follow my spring cleaning movie project on YouTube. My channel is Nicholas Moffat. So, Yeah, this is the Monthly Movie Dispatch. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.